The iPhone XS and the XS Max are as polarizing as Apple themselves. They're either innovation embodied or an angry set of emojis about why anyone would ever spend over $1,400 for a spec'd out Max. And I'm not here to try to change anyone's mind, but what I am gonna do, at least hopefully, is help you decide if either of these two new phones are right for you. I'm John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo, and this is our review of the iPhone XS and the XS Max. So I want to start with a bit of perspective about how far things have come since 2007 and the original iPhone. The XS Max has over 21 times the resolution of that first iPhone. Mobile technology has evolved crazy fast, and with it, kind of our expectations too. So I'm going to work backwards and start this review by saying if you currently have an iPhone X, you can happily and confidently sit this gen out, with one exception that we're going to get to. But if you're coming from anything older or from Android, this gen is a really awesome entry point to get the latest from Apple. So design-wise, Apple is continuing the iPhone X design language. In fact, just looking at a 10 and a XS head-on, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to tell a difference. So despite not being obvious, the refinements are there. You just kind of got to know where to look. For example, a weird choice for Apple, a company that generally obsesses over small details, is the asynchronous speaker grill at the bottom. Functionally, it was done to accommodate for the new extra antenna bands, which does positively impact reception, but just looks off. The banding around the frame is also a bit grippier, and it now features IP68 for better water resistance, and there's a new gold color, which I picked up so I can tell the difference. Inside, obviously, things have changed as well, but I promise we're gonna get there. The Max is where, at least aesthetically, things start to look different, which for a lot of Apple loyalists is enough of a reason alone to upgrade. The screen jumps from 5.8 to 6.5 inches and fills the void left by the former Plus series of devices. And despite being big, it's actually a smaller footprint than the Note 9, the Pixel 2 XL, and almost identical to the A Plus if you need to see how one would feel in your hand. This is a tough phone to navigate one-handed, even with reachability and even if you have larger hands. It becomes, for the most part, a two-handed affair. With that extra screen real estate, it's really disappointing to not see the OS take advantage of it. Things are just bigger. And for some, that's enough, but for me, I'd really like to see things like side-by-side multitasking and floating video, all features that most of their large screen competition are now offering. You do get dual panes in some core apps, but I really appreciate more for such a big screen. And speaking of screens, the iPhone X had one of the best in the business, so it's no surprise the XS and X Max have incredible displays. The OLED tech shows off the really dark blacks, as you'd expect. Colors are bright and vibrant, and movies, games, apps, whatever you're doing, just look really good. And I feel like notches at this point are like most politicians. I don't like them, but I accept that they're necessary. But I do want to point out that Apple is one of the few manufacturers who actually bent the display to avoid having the notch into chin, so credit where it's due. With Apple, at least their notch hides the true depth sensor that enables Face ID. I know it's supposed to be faster this time around, but I honestly haven't really noticed it, but I never really thought it was slow on the iPhone X. In fact, I prefer it to Touch ID, but I recognize that's more of a preference thing. I really do enjoy using it for things like app authentication, Apple Pay, and usually a seamless unlock, assuming you don't mind picking the phone up to do it. I never felt like the iPhone X was slow, but the XS and XS Max come with the obligatory spec bumps. Powering them is the A12 Bionic, and although Apple doesn't advertise it, RAM's been up tier from 3 GB to 4. Predictably, everything is really smooth. Apps load quickly, gestures are buttery smooth, animations are snappy. It just feels fast, even if it doesn't feel much faster than the 10. The cameras, though, are where the real differences are. And if you are just going to look at a spec sheet or even the design of the devices, you won't see the whole picture. The improvements, though, is in the usage and the machine learning, and most importantly, the photos themselves. So there are 3 different cameras, a 7-megapixel selfie cam, and 2 rear-facing 12-megapixel sensors. The wide-angle lens is now a bit wider, and it's got a new bigger sensor with faster focus, and the other is telephoto. It's the same as the iPhone X. Colors in photos are really vibrant, more than in past years. They don't always look completely accurate, at least to my eye, but I kind of dig it. Again, it's a preference thing, and if you don't like it, it can be dialed back if it's not your jam. Pictures also look extra sharp to my eye this time around, giving the images a real crisp look. Smart HDR is also a pretty big deal, and dynamic range is really impressive. Portrait mode is still a work in progress, but solid. Now you can adjust aperture after the fact. And Apple is definitely not the first company to do this, but it is a nice addition. The front camera though is gonna split some folks. There's some pretty aggressive noise reduction going on that's creating kind of a smoothing beauty effect. It doesn't really bother me, but it's something you should at least know about. The cameras boil down to this. They are all really good, and when held up to images from the iPhone 10, it's a big improvement. If you want the best camera in mobile, I still think it's made by Google, but if you want the best camera setup Apple has to offer, this is a big reason to upgrade from the iPhone 10. And if you put stock in DxO mark, the iPhone XS Max got a score of 105, the second highest score they've ever given to a mobile phone, second only to the 109 given to the P20 Pro. So when it comes to battery life, both of these phones will easily last you a day, and that should be the minimum of what you expect from phones. I don't mind charging at night, but don't make me have to top off midday. And my usage of the Max, while taking off the charger around like 6 a.m. and plugging it in around 11 p.m., usually had about 40-ish% left. Speaking of charging, I know I'm not alone here, but you can now turn your phone off and wirelessly charge it at night, whereas with the 10 and the iPhone 8, it would randomly turn on at some point. I'm not going to really comment on the not charging with the screen off issue, since as of this filming, a software fix is in beta, so by the time most of you see this, it won't be an issue at all. What is an issue though, is Apple still including a 5-watt charger in the box, which is mind-boggling at this price point. So, the big question, are the new iPhones worth it? Well, I don't think any phone is worth more than $1,000, but I still buy a lot of stuff that aren't necessarily worth the price, and I'd wager you do too. If you're coming from any iPhone other than an iPhone 10, this is an incredible upgrade and one I don't think you'll regret. If you're debating switching OS allegiances, the same applies to you. You'll get the best Apple has to offer, and a package that's overall pretty impressive. Are they perfect? Absolutely not, but they are really good.